Welcome back to On Texas Football, special live edition of On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe down on the UT campus, joined by CJ Vogel. Just got done with the player availability, talking to Trevor Goosby and Jelani McDonald. We'll go over that. 2 days away from Fan Day and the end of spring practice. We've got some recruits coming in this weekend. We'll keep updating you here on the channel and at OnTexasFootball.com on all the latest going on the 40 acres. But CJ, it's starting to hit me the fact that there won't be a spring game on Saturday. There's going to be a practice. There's been lettermen kind of in and out of the building. Preparations are ongoing, but it's kind of weird now that we're here and we're not having a spring game. There's no spring game to look forward to on Saturday.
Yeah, it is a little bit weird, right? That kind of put the bookend to the spring. You got to fully see the product of what Texas had been working on for 15 sessions on the field. You got the chance to peek at some of these freshmen to see what they had been putting onto the field as well. You don't get to see that this year, unfortunately, though we do have you covered on Texas Football with some notes, nuggets. Our Bobby Burton put some up this morning. But getting to talk to both guys today, hey, they kind of peel back the curtain a little bit in terms of which youngsters are showing up, which guys are making moves, who's making noise amongst the newcomers as well. So we'll dive on into that, Jeff. The big thing I want to start with you today is talking with Jelani McDonald from the defensive side of the ball and obviously left tackle Trevor Goosby on the offensive side of the ball. Both of them prepared for what could be a pretty eventful night for the Longhorns this evening in the NFL draft. Of course, 3 guys expected to hear their names called. Kelvin Banks is the guy Trevor Goosby is replacing, and Jahdae Barron was basically what Jelani McDonald called a big brother in that defensive back room last year. All in all, eventful, but more than anything, something that gives these guys something to look forward to with their time at Texas and something to work for so that they then can work to hear their name called one year during the NFL draft as well.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at Kelvin Banks. You look at go back and look at his first year as a starter, as a freshman, and think about all the NFL, the eventual draft picks on the edge that he faced last year. Will Anderson, Will McDonald at Iowa State, Felix Anudike-Uzomah at K-State. I'm sure I'm leaving somebody out, but you look at Trevor Goosby, CJ, and what he did this last year as a redshirt freshman. I mean, he went up against Shamar Turner at A&M, who's probably going to get his name called tonight. Michael Williams at Georgia, who's probably going to get his name called tonight. Maybe Jalen Walker at Georgia, probably going to get his name called tonight. So, really cool deal for Trevor Goosby to be able to look at the draft tonight, see that there's going to be 2 or 3 guys that he went head up with, and be able to say, you know what, I think it's just a confidence boost for a young guy, which is nice to say, hey, I can't hold my own against the very best in the country, just like Kelvin Banks did as a true freshman. Goosby doing it as a redshirt freshman. But CJ, I think with Jelani McDonald, maybe we're sitting here next year talking about him. Now I'm hoping we get 2 more years out of Jelani McDonald, but if he is really that Swiss Army knife type guy on defense, I think with his size, speed, athleticism, maybe he's a guy that hopefully he's the guy that has a decision to make. But I think this could be a big night for him. Again, looking at Jahdae Barron, a guy who he grew close to, being able to achieve a dream of being drafted, not just drafted, but drafted in the first round. For Jahdae, I think it's going to be interesting. It could be interesting for Jelani, depending on where Jahdae goes. That's going to give Jelani something to look forward to. He might say, hey, I want to be drafted higher than Jahdae was, or I want to get in the first round too. Give him something to work forward to. So it's nice, CJ, when the bar at Texas is not being said, hey, I want to be drafted, but I want to be drafted like my peers in the first round.
Yeah, being drafted higher than Jahdae Barron after this evening might be a pretty tall task for anybody on this Texas roster. Of course, top 10, top 15, very much in play. Kelvin Banks also the same. But going back to Trevor Goosby and some of the guys that he had to face early on in his tenure, he said, look, learning from Kelvin Banks, learning through those games that I played against with Texas A&M, Georgia, Clemson, Arizona State, some big-time defensive end talent in all 4 of those games. Jeff, it does kind of mirror with what we saw with Kelvin Banks and how quickly we saw him take the reins upon arriving at Texas and now seeing him go in the first round. And I'll tell you, folks behind the scenes in Austin, watching and seeing how Trevor Goosby has evolved, not just physically, but on the field as a football player, I don't think it's far-fetched to think that, hey, one day, whether it be next year, whether it be in 2 years, we could be sitting here on a Thursday, the day of an NFL draft, saying, okay, Trevor Goosby, where's he ending up? because I think a first-round talent is very much in play when it all comes said and when it comes to be said and done for Trevor Goosby in his time at Texas.
Yeah, kind of like Jelani McDonald. Like, we hope we've got at least 2 more years out of Trevor Goosby, but he's draft eligible after the 25 season. So, like I said, hopefully he's got a choice to make. If he's got a choice to make, CJ, that means good things happen for Texas in the fall. But, I think really, and Goosby talked about it today, the game for him was really the Texas A&M game, where you go in thinking, hey, it's going to be another Kelvin Banks start. He's going to be good. And a couple plays into that game, he's not only injured, but he's not going to play the rest of the day. And Goosby has to go in there on the fly. You think about just the magnitude of that game. It's on the road. It's an SEC game. If you win, you're in the SEC championship game. If you lose, who knows what's happened? What happens to your postseason hopes at that point? Oh, and by the way, it's in College Station against Texas A&M in the renewal of the rivalry. So you look at all of that stuff that kind of came together, creating a storm for, hey, if Trevor Goosby's going to sink or swim, what a stage to do it. You can look at, hey, that's a ton of pressure, or you can look at it and say, what an opportunity for a guy to be on that big stage and perform. And Goosby performed. So, yeah, I mean, I just a little bit different, obviously, than Kelvin's freshman year, but from the standpoint of getting out there in big-time environments against big-time opponents and not blinking, kind of like we saw Kelvin Banks doing that Alabama game as a freshman. I think Goosby, for his first significant action to come on the road in a high-leverage game against Texas A&M, and for him to perform, I think that's why we're feeling so good about left tackle, CJ. I mean, normally you lose the Outland Trophy winner, the Lombardi Trophy winner, a guy that's going to snap a streak of 23 years without an offensive lineman going in the first round. Kelvin Banks is going to snap that streak tonight. Normally, we'd be freaking out about losing that guy, but I think I'll speak for the entire All-Texas football staff. I'm remarkably calm about Trevor Goosby sliding in to be the starting left tackle with Kelvin Banks gone. And that just goes back to what we saw him. There was no easy path for him. Like you said, it's Texas A&M, it's Georgia in the SEC championship game, it's Clemson in the first round game that he had to come into play, Arizona State in a Peach Bowl. There were no easy snaps. Every snap in those games was a high leverage snap. So props to Trevor Goosby. Like I said, hopefully we're not talking about him next year. Hopefully we're talking this time next year about, hey, Trevor Goosby being a top pick in the 2027 draft, coming back for one more year, protecting Arch Manning's blindside. But it's a really nice place to be in, CJ, when you've got a guy. And I think, too, and you can speak to this, too, having seen Goosby in high school. When you take a guy that's a little bit of a developmental guy at a position like left tackle and thinking, hey, perfect, ideal scenario, he's a replacement for Kelvin Banks. The minute Kelvin decides he's done and ready to go to the NFL, you can put Trevor Goosby in there, and he's an instant plug-and-play starter as a replacement. And, we'll gauge whether, you get the same performance. Does it dip a little bit, what have you? I'm sure there's going to be some growing pains with him being a full-time starter for the first time. But at the very least, CJ, to take him as a developmental guy for Kyle Flood, and now to be able to just put him in and lock him into the left tackle spot in his first spring without Kelvin Banks, again, just speaks to the player development, number one, and number two, the eye for talent staff has.
I mean, yeah, we're already hearing that about Nick Brooks as well in his first spring. So the transition from left tackle to left tackle, very much in good hands for the Longhorns here. Of course, Goosby also mentioned Kyle Flood has really prepared him to take over this starting role, as has the leadership in the offensive line room, which he pointed to Cole Hudson taking on that Jake Majors role at the center position. He said, hey, DJ Campbell's got more of that charisma, that raw to him. He's a guy that's going to go out there and really get the group fired up, and I think that's something that's a little underrated with that offensive lineman. But Cole Hudson right now standing out amongst the group leaders with that offensive line room, something you would expect with a fourth-year guy now at the center position.
And I love the dynamic between those two guys specifically, CJ, because you watch Cole Hudson get on the practice field. Cole Hudson's one of those rare guys, no gloves, no tape on the hands or wrists, no armbands, just come out there, just put the jersey top on and go to work. And DJ's going to have the sleeves and the bands and the tendon visor and the whole deal. So it kind of lets you know the personality of both guys. But again, I just
want to look like a creative player.
Exactly. Yeah, look like somebody got out of hands with a creative player on a video game. But I like the fact that, again, both of these guys getting a chance to sit at the head of the table, in their first spring without Jake Majors and Hayden Connor and Kelvin Banks, losing a lot of leadership on that offensive line. Those two guys have grabbed the bull by the horns and taken on that leadership role and been serious about it. There's been an intent from both guys to lead and to lead by example in that O-line room. So, again, this goes back to something we mentioned last night, CJ, on the live stream with you, myself, and Rod. If the Texas run game is going to be something that's not only improved, but it's something that Steve Sarkisian can feel confident in, I think it's going to be those three guys. I'm not worried about the tackles, really, because Goosby, and whether it's Andre Kojo or Brendan Baker, Nick Brooks, whoever it is at right tackle, I trust that they'll get it figured out. But if you get the best version of DJ Campbell and you get the best version of Cole Hudson that you've gotten at center, and Neto makes the most of his first time to really be the full-time left guard, so really his first opportunity that we've seen him get, if he makes the most of it, I think those three guys are going to be the focal point of a Texas run game that this offense can actually lean on. Not to say they couldn't at times last year, because, again, I mentioned the A&M game. Go look at what Trey Weisner did in that game. But I think before you even get to the running backs and what that group brings to the table, I think it's on those three. If those three guys are right, if they've got it right in the run game, this Texas run game can be something statistically, whatever. It should be better. But it should be something that in high leverage games, Sark can trust them to get that third and short. You know, the second and threes, the third and twos, the fourth and ones. He can trust this offensive line to go get it done against anybody in the country.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's going to come down to the middle guys. Feel good about the tackles. Texas being tested in practice, as we talked about. Goosby spoke about the transfers, Travis Shaw, Hero Kanu, Cole Brevard coming in and pushing this offensive line unit. Also mentioned, obviously, Colin Simmons. But Ethan Burke and Lance Jackson received some shine as well this morning from the Texas left tackle. Jeff, getting back to Jelani, he said it's been Michael Taft that's helped him get to where he is today. Of course, the two of them sharing the back safety room together. That communication, that continuity from last year, playing some together on the field in 2024, should certainly help this room maintain a high level of play. I want to get your thoughts on what that room might entail and what challenges Texas might be faced with in terms of communication with a Jalen Gilbo moving out wider or Kobe Black, if any, because let's remember, Jelani McDonald, high school quarterback at Connolly, was throwing to Kobe Black. They're on the same page. They know about Jalen Gilbo. And, of course, Manny Muhammad returning at one cornerback spot. Are you expecting any sort of drop-off at all in terms of continuity, cohesion, communication in that back end in 2025?
I mean, I think a little bit should be expected just because there was that special rapport that was built between Ja'Day Barron, Michael Taft, and Andrew Makuba. We don't need to go down that road again. We've been down that road plenty of times. But I think, CJ, the caveat is, the flip side of that is, I think Taft has played enough football with Jelani McDonald and Derek Williams coming back. You know, we've heard about him just working his way back from that ACL. I think he's played enough football with those two. And keep in mind, you know, if Jalen Gilbo does slide out, Gilbo played so much at the star position last year that I think your communication, if there's a drop-off, it shouldn't be a drop-off to where it completely falls off a cliff, right? I think it still should be solid. Will it be as good as last year? Hopefully that's something that grows and evolves as the year goes on. But I don't think it'll be something where it just plummets in terms of this defense. They can't get to me. They can't line up right in the back end. There's blown coverages and things like that. Now, I will say, with Dwayne Akina back there, Johnny Nanson's pretty well versed in what this defense does from a coverage standpoint. But with Dwayne Akina new, Mark Orfe new, Kenoto Hudson is coming back, there's going to be an adjustment period. And but I think the good thing is knowing who your first opponent is and knowing who wide receiver one is for that first opponent. I think Taft and Jelani and even Derek Williams and some of those younger guys, I think they're going to know, hey, we're going to have to put it all stop Jeremiah Smith. You're going to have to come with your best coverages, and you're going to have to communicate really, really well. And plus, as loud as it's probably going to be in the horseshoe, I think that's something that they're going to force. So I think once they get through that Ohio State game, I think we'll be able to judge kind of the baseline where it is. And it's going to be a hell of a baseline test, but we'll be able to judge where the baseline is, and then it'll go from there. If the communication is good, CJ, and they come out of Columbus with a win where Jeremiah Smith just doesn't go crazy, and then I think, then it might have a chance to be better. But I love the fact that it's a heck of a baseline from a communication standpoint for that safety group and that secondary as a whole, knowing you're going to have to be on your P's and Q's, knowing the attention to detail it's going to take to come out of Columbus with a win and at the same time keep Jeremiah Smith from going crazy.
Yeah, my favorite part from Jelani today was talking about Dwayne Akina saying, hey, I've never been around a coach like this in terms of his energy. He's throwing footballs 100 miles per hour at us. He's running all over the practice field. He brings the juice. He brings the energy. And I think that's something, Jeff, that will trickle down to this safety room, to this entire secondary, really, to see Coach Aquino, who's coached so many legends at Texas, return and still have this energy that he's out there coaching basically for his first time. That's going to be something to watch as well. But overall, just Jelani, just Trevor Goosby today for the Texas media availability. Jeff, anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
Yeah, you forget that Dwayne Aquino was a backup quarterback at Washington, and the guy started over him was Warren Moon, a Pro Football Hall of Famer, one of the best to ever do it. So Coach Aquino can still. We saw him CJ day one. He can still get out there and fire some fastballs. So that's not old quarterback in him. But the other thing, and I'll let you finish it up with this. Trevor Goosby did get asked about his brother. Austin Goosby is one of the top basketball prospects in the state in 2026, and a guy that's pretty high on Sean Miller's board. Don't think for a second that big brother isn't trying to tell little brother, hey, why don't you come down here to the 40 acres and take your talents down south and play for Sean Miller. Trevor said he's doing his best to get Austin down to Texas.
Yeah, I like hearing that as well. Doing a little recruiting for both sports on the 40 acres for the Horns. On top of that, a third sport, Jeff, I know you're headed to baseball here in a minute. Go hear some preview for the Texas A&M weekend starting Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. One little note that we'll throw out here, Steve Sarkisian throwing out the first pitch Friday evening at the Dish. So a lot to look forward to. And, of course, Fan Fest on Saturday. We'll keep you all updated, including the NFL Draft this evening at ontexasfootball.com. Come join us. We'll be live for the first round this evening as well. But, Jeff, thank you very much.
And CJ, I'll tell anybody this, too. They got the big big fan store yard sale going on Saturday. Shop there. Everybody's already getting ready for that. So if you're planning on being here for the festivities, I will channel my inner Mac Brown. Come early. You can be loud and stay late, but come early is going to be the key part on Saturday because preparations are already underway.
Well, good deal. Thank you very much, Jeff. And look, I'm looking forward to the Fan Fest and all the recruits that come with it. So bring it on. Let's have a good weekend. And most importantly, there you go, Ashley. Thank you very much. Matthew behind the scenes, thank you very much. And we'll see you guys tonight and also for the winning drive. Y'all have a good one. Okay.